Kindness Can, the podcast, with radio personality Jane Lindley Thomas and psychologist Paul Bushell. Because every act of kindness, no matter how big or small, can change lives. In this series, Jane and Paul hope to enrich your life by giving you practical tools on how to be kinder in your relationships with yourself, with those around you, at home, work, and in your community.
Welcome to the Kindness Can podcast this morning. As Paul mentioned a little earlier, it's really become part of our safety plan over the last couple of days. And this morning we welcome Kierran Allen, content producer. Welcome, my darling.
Jane, so nice to see you again. I think the last time I was on East Coast with you was my Durban video, a number of years back.
Wow, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So
that was like a few years back.
Shaking the tree there. Morning, Paulie.
Good morning. Yeah, Kierran, thanks so much for being with us today. We really look forward to the opportunity to hear some of your stories, because I know you've been out and about, and I know you've been capturing some of the hard stuff, but I know you've also been capturing some really hopeful images as well. Talk us through what's been happening on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, without touching on, too much of the negativity, obviously it's something I think is important to address, obviously what happened and where we're at now and, the repercussions actually, I think it's more of a turning point for the country. I think what happened has led to this point where people now have to kind of look at what happened, deal with it. Some people, I mean, their lives have changed. I mean, jobs have been lost, buildings burnt down. I mean, places are going to take months to rebuild. Some of the scenes I saw, like, one specific place that sticks out for me was Nandi Drive, just looking at like Mass Mart and that massive factory burning down and, the utter destruction just across the board. It was just, I felt like I was in a scene of The Walking Dead. It's probably one of my favorite series. And I was literally, I kind of got there in the morning and I just took like 10 minutes and I just stood there and looked at what was in front of me. I've photographed over the years, photographed and filmed many protests, many strikes around the country for various different reasons. And this was just a complete eye-opener, if I could say that. It was just it's very difficult to describe. I don't think the video does it any justice. I don't think images do it justice. I mean, just being there was just like indescribable. I must say,
I was in the Berg at the time, and your photographs were my reality. I was like, who's this Kierran Allen guy? I mean, this guy's like, he's not only getting insane shots, but he is right there. Like in some of the photographs, I could actually feel the flames and I could actually smell the air that was burnt. Sure. So, I mean, you weren't sitting at the top of a little constructed, pier taking aerial shots with the drone. You were, I felt like you were in the heartbeat of something that when I look at photographs, I'm like, I can't even comprehend this photograph. When I drive through Springfield, I can't comprehend. So, I want to obviously end on the hopefulness and the joy and the unity, but I also, Paul and I are we so believe that there is importance in talking about the stuff that happened before the cleanup. So, I mean, is there a standout image for you that when you talking about Nandi Drive and the surrealism of the airiness, but were there any times when you're on the ground, but you were actually like quite fearful for your well-being? Like, okay, I've pushed this, trying to get content to put out into the world. And I actually have jeopardized my safety here.
I mean, let's take Waterfall, for instance, when I went into that Watercrest Mall. I think it comes with years of experience with being able to read a crowd. There's obviously, there was no chanting. There was no political chanting. There was a percentage of violence. I mean, it wasn't, a happy protest, but, I kind of looked at the crowd, I looked at the people, and I just stood back for about half an hour and I just like assessed the whole scene in front of me, kind of just, do I go in? Do I wait? Do I wait for police? Do I wait for some of my reaction unit friends? I just decided, what, let me just let me just walk in and see, how the crowd reacts to a camera. And, it was as if I wasn't even there. People didn't care. People running around me, left, right, and center, all over the place. Just, it's very sad, very sad. I think this was a very senseless thing. I think it was desperation. I think it's got a lot to do with the effects of our COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through. It's always going to affect the poorer communities way harder than you and I, for instance. We don't understand what those people are going through because we're not in their circumstance. We don't live their life. I chatted to some of the looters and I was like, why are you doing this? And the guy's like, hey, dude, like, I've got an opportunity to get a couch and a washing machine. Like, I'm in. It was as simple as that. And it was just, there was an element of people burning things, people destroying property. I could physically see it. It wasn't everyone. There was a specific, group that would go around and just smash all the point of sales. I mean, they're not stealing anything. There were guys that were pulling the fire extinguisher, the spraying systems out the roof. I mean, Game, for instance, in Watercress Mall, completely flooded. I mean, in amongst the chaos, there's this water pouring out of the roof. And, so there was that element that went in there, people that went in there to destroy and burn and break. And, then I saw maybe 10-year-old kids. It was across the board, ladies, older. I saw a guy in a wheelchair, literally taking bags of chips. It was, when I look back at the footage and, I kind of think about the people I saw there, what was going on, why, what the media is saying versus what I saw, two different things. And, I think it was important for me to, I wouldn't say risk my life. I didn't for once. I mean, I got threatened a few times, but, I know how to deal with people in that situation. And I think it's important for me to take that risk to show people what's actually happening. I feel like the media is there's so much constraints. There's a lot that's held back, and I think for people like me, it's important to use my platform, use my skill in what I can do to produce content that brings awareness, shows people. Maybe the looters watch my video afterwards, and reflect back on what they've just done and go, okay, like we took it a step too far. We shouldn't have destroyed that. I mean, I work there. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, Nandi Drive, let's talk about that, Mass Mart, there thousands of people work there. I'm pretty sure employees were looting. I hope they see the content afterwards and reflect back on their decision. I think a lot of people have, I'm busy doing a documentary for Vice, and I had to chat to some looters and go into the townships and speak to some people, and there's a lot of regrets. There's a lot of people that are like, we are scared. We are scared for our lives. The police are coming after us. We should never have done this. So there's that instant feeling of regret where people are just like, I don't know why I did that. And now what are the repercussions? And it's a hard thing, it's a hard thing to deal with. And I think across the board, a lot of people have lost their jobs, their livelihoods. I mean, there was a lot of death, I saw a lot of death, and not just from gunshot wounds or things falling on them, from being trampled. It was this mass crowd going in. I mean, I saw guys being trampled to death. It is that serious, people were just frantic. It was just, it's very difficult to describe, but I mean, it was a sad thing to witness. However,
I was going to say, like, I just like hearing you talk, it just makes me feel so sad. And when kids are involved as well, when I would see children on the screen kind of getting caught up in that survive or die. You know,
Sure.
it's now or never.
Yes,
like the urgency now. You've got to do it now.
It was just this frantic, like, let's get in and out, and we'll be okay. We'll make it out. Now, what's happening is, you know, law enforcement and the police are following up in certain areas and going into people's homes. If you've got a fridge in a box, you're getting arrested, and that's that. You know, now was it worth it? You know, there's many questions I ask. You know, I mean, I chatted to some looters, and I'm like, you know, what do you say? Like, why? You get one simple question, why? And, you know, a majority of the answers were, I'm desperate. I don't have money. I don't have R1 to my name. I have 4 kids that I can't feed. I don't have a bed. We sleep on one mattress, 5 people sideways. I mean, we cannot comprehend that, you know, side of life. You know,
I get all that, and I do, and I promise you, I'm at like the brink of wanting to have tears rolling down my cheeks. But why break things?
Why
burn things? Why destroy things? Take stuff. If you're hungry, I mean, I can't justify that because that's stealing.
No.
I understand the desperation. I understand as a mother that if my children are hungry, I need to make a plan, and I understand that side of it. But why go and break infrastructure and rip fittings out of the roof and destroy?
Yeah, it was a big, I mean, you know, it was a big factor, you know, and like I said, I think there was a certain percentage of the so-called, I mean, the looters, there was a certain percentage that purely went there to break, destroy. I'm not sure why. You know, I don't want to lean too much into racial tensions in South Africa or political or, you know, things like that. I mean, this was none of that. It was just the destruction and the burning. I don't think we're ever going to get an answer. You know, I tried to broach the subject with a few people, and yeah, no one was commenting on that. And
Kierran, I think what's so valuable about this conversation is that I think and I certainly don't condone any of that behavior at all. It seems completely senseless and destructive and not useful. But I think what you're doing so nicely in this conversation is, in the face of trauma, we sometimes want to oversimplify things. We kind of want to polarize things as a way of making us feel safe. And I think what you're giving us a glimpse into is that the situation was far more complex than right versus wrong, and that there were different elements, there were different motives, there were different emotions in that moment, many of which spiraled out of control. It sounds to me like what you're saying. There were some people that were definitely there with the intention to break and destroy, but there were certainly some people there who were desperate and sometimes sort of brazen in their desperateness. And that tells it's a very complicated story that's unfolding here. And I'm reiterating the fact that I don't support or condone any of the behavior. It feels like a situation where it kind of all just spiraled very quickly out of control. But I think what you're doing here, you're pausing with the fact that we've got to be very careful of oversimplifying it.
Sure, 100%. I mean, even for myself, I mean, I don't condone theft or destruction of property or, you know, there's thousands of jobs. I mean, I'm sure you saw those scenes inside Macro. I mean, realistically speaking, we're more than likely not going to have a Macro for the next few months in Durban. We're going to have to go to Toti. I mean, the Macros are just... Springfield Park, for me, walking through there was just this eerie feeling. I was like, no, man, you know, why? There wasn't even a card machine left working, you know, in working order. Just utter destruction. The solar panels outside, the millions of rands, the impact that this is going to have, you know. And I just, you know, I've chatted to some looters and they just kind of say, well, you know, I've kind of done this to myself now and I now have no job and I have to just take responsibility for what I've done. There's guys returning stuff. There's guys loading buckies, going back and saying, I'm sorry. I think the reality of what happened would only impact you after the fact. And I think, in the moment, I think, and it's with anything in life, you can get caught up in the moment and you're like, oh shit, okay, they're doing it, so let me join in. And I think that's what it really boiled down to. And it just, like you say, spiraled out of control. And I think we've got to remember where this started. It started as a political thing, and the whole, we know why without getting into that. And it just rolled from there. There was one faction that lit a truck in Moy River. That started, and it just went like wildfire, literally.
Literally, yeah.
And,
Let's talk about some of the, I'm sure, wonderful characters you must have met. I'd love to get into that, because I also think that before we get into that, there must have also been people in that looting crowd that actually didn't want to loot. They would rather not. But if you're doing it and you're doing it and I need something and I don't actually want to be ousted because I'm not doing it, then I'm going to do it too. So I'm sure you met a mixed array of people out there.
Yeah, sure. It's I came across guys in Nandi Drive that were actually from KwaZulu, and they were there on scene, trying to get people they know back to their communities. And they were like, guys, don't do this. Come, please, I'm begging you. I've never seen that before in my life, I've never seen people from the same community, one half looting, the other half trying to stop their friends from looting. This was, incredible to see, but also just, so sad. And there was this whole thing with the communities and people out there of, how the police department is not involved, and where's the army and where are the police? They did a phenomenal job. They were in the right areas. We had it under control in certain areas. As bad as we think it was 100 times worse somewhere else. I'm friends with a lot of guys in the SAP, Metro, and Nandi Drive, for instance. I'm predicting that crowd there was 200,000 people. That's how big it was. How many police, how many army soldiers do you send to control 200,000 people? Already the police were run thin and things like that. And, I really saw them come together. There was community members bringing them water and food and things. The guys are working through the night. This wasn't something that happened in an hour. This was something that went 24 hours. It was right through the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. People are still there just taking, and the army and the police did, a great job to try and stop. I won't say stop, but trying to minimize death. At the end of the day, communities came together and they took it upon themselves to take a stance against these looters. And, I think the cops just tried to manage what was going on here. And it was just chaos across the board. However, it was awesome to see people on the ground risking their own lives as well. You must understand. Nandi Drive, there were bullets flying left, right, and center. There were looters shooting towards the police. Those people still have families and children and, people at home to think about. And we kind of in that environment. And when you can hear bullets ricocheting off things, it's just, it is what it is.
And kind stories. You talk about the kindness of people bringing the police, food and water. I'm sure there was wonderful kindness, because with everything, there's light and dark and good and 100%. Bad.
And to see the community members also coming in, bringing the police dinner. a small gesture. You're risking yourself to go into an environment to make sure those people are okay. Community members coming together. It was incredible to see how, Waterfall, for instance, the Hillcrest community, everyone just came out to support each other, help people. There was community members helping looters, if they got injured or whatever, they were on scene helping, making sure they're okay, calling the ambulance, getting them there. And thereafter, obviously, maybe you want to go into the aftermath of the cleanup, and I linked up with Kierran Goldstone. I'm sure you know who that is, and we went through to Cornubia Industrial Park, and the night before we kind of spoke about it. I called up Kierran and just said, "Yo, this is the situation. This is what I want to do. Where do you think's the right place?" I was shocked at the amount of people that turned up. People drove from Maritzburg to Cornubia to help clean up. If that doesn't say what South Africans really are, I don't know. People came from all over KZN. It was crazy. People came from the South Coast all the way to Cornubia. That's a drive. And you came to literally pick up a mess that you didn't make and to help people. And there was guys there that were their function was just to hand out oranges and water for people cleaning up. People took money out of their pockets to make sure that the cleanup crews were fed and had enough water. And, on the other side of things, I filmed a guy in Joburg. I can't give you his name. He doesn't want his identity and anything, but really prominent businessman. He's got a couple planes. His family flies, all of them fly, and they literally flew in medical supplies, dog food, any essential items. They flew those planes, 4 aircraft from Joburg. They went all over the place, literally just dropping off whoever needed supplies. If there was an airfield near you, they would go literally over WhatsApp. What do you need? Where are you? How can I get it to be on our way? In the next hour, the stuff's delivered. To see people do that, they're incredible.
Handfully. So beautiful.
I'm hanging on to every word that you're saying here. And I think you're painting a picture of the best and the worst of our country. And it feels to me they kind of all came together in this really, really complicated, horrible moment. Just the best and the worst of who we are and where we're at. Like Jane was saying, there's good and bad in all of this. And it's so hard to untangle.
Yeah, look, as we know, this is a very complex thing. I do a lot of work for Reuters, BBC, a lot of international agencies. I was on live TV with ABC News in Australia, just across the board, all over the place, these news agencies coming in, and everyone it's taking this political angle and, trying to do the media thing. And it's just, it's as you say, a very complex situation. And I think, for me, having these discussions, bringing together platforms, people, pilots, community members, just for one common interest is an important part. Me going in there and filming this stuff, it's an important part. People need to see. We need to look at this footage afterwards as a country and learn from it. We need to sit down and have discussions. I think South Africa wasn't built for South Africans. And I think now we're at a turning point where we need to figure out, have conversations, put things on the table that you might not want to address, but it's an important part. You can do so much by just having a conversation. This conversation, the people that watch this, if we inspire one person to go and do good for someone else, our job is done. It's not about changing the masses. It's not about change overnight and guys that just flip a switch. This is about the guy jumping in his plane with his own money in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, when the country is on fire, loading nappies in his plane and flying it to someone who desperately needs nappies or baby formula. That's what it's about. And that's what more people need to adopt. Whether it's driving down the road to see if your neighbor's all right. For me, it has the same weight as a person flying his plane from Joburg. No matter how big or small, the little pieces put together just gets bigger and bigger, you know.
There's a question here that I think you're kind of answering is someone says, how did your wife feel about you leaving to be in the line of fire?
Sure. I mean, I've been with Jess it was actually on the 19th, the other day was our 16th year anniversary. And Jess and I literally have been together since she was 13 years old. I was 15. We kind of that young lovers. But yeah, I think she's used to it. She knows the risk involved, but she also understands the importance. And that's a huge thing. That I feel, you know, in my personal capacity, that risking my life or walking into a situation where there is a certain percentage of risk outweighs, you know, we need to film this. We need this content. We need to learn from this important part. It's, you know, how do you move forward without evidence? How do you move forward without looking at something that's hard hitting for yourself? You know, it's some of the content. Obviously, I've got a lot of stuff that I, you know, can't put online, and it's been used for other things. You know, we're busy working with guys all over the world to put, you know, a message out there. You know, there's many guys I'm having conversations with. Vusi Kozwayo, a lot of influential people, celebrities here and there. And I think my wife, you know, understands the work that's involved to really inspire change and really do something with a meaning, you know.
Before we let you go, take us through how you got that shot. That when I saw it appear on Facebook, that was like right, I have to find this guy. I've been watching him for the last 10 days. He needs to be in my face because this picture is golden.
Yeah.
Will you describe it for those that haven't seen it and tell us how you got that shot?
Which shot was that?
The shot, the guy, the superhero coming down the road. Yeah, was it Batman? I don't know who he was.
I don't know. It was like a Iron Man / Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that Cornubia cleanup, it was just incredible, you know, getting there. Just, you know, when we got there was like almost no one there, and we kind of arrived, and I was with Carvin, and we're like, okay, I mean, I thought this was going to be a big thing. All of a sudden, it was just like bucky loads of people just rocking up. You know, the guys from Builder came on board and gave everyone rakes and bags and all kinds of different businesses banded together, you know, and out of the crowd comes this Batman. I was like, dude, I am sweating. I'm in a shirt and shorts. It's like a proper Durban day, 35 degrees. It's cooking. And this guy is in a Batman suit. I mean, I actually didn't get to talk to him. I mean, I just shot a photo and I was so busy running around. And I regret not having a conversation. Maybe we need to track this guy down.
I think I know who it is. I think he won the fashion show at Splashy Fen with his wife.
I saw comments on show. Yes.
Him and his wife dressed up. I'm sure it's him. And I will track him down for you and get that conversation because definitely. That photograph is just represented so much 100%. That we can actually find the humor. You know, there's that saying, laugh to keep from crying. And when I saw 100%. On the one side of the photograph, the devastation, and then on the other side, not only has he shown up to help, he got dressed in the morning and drove to Cornubia dressed as a superhero to clean up.
No, crazy. Like, I mean, but it's that. I mean, you know, the kids that were there, were just so amped. They were like, "Oh, sure. Batman," you know, like, and that's those kids. Yeah, they just that's what it's about. It's about to be South African. You know, it's just to go in such a hectic time in such a heavy situation. You know, to rock up in your Batman suit and sweep the streets in 35-degree heat for an hour is, I mean,
remarkable.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think my big takeaway from this conversation today is, once again, how incredibly powerful kindness is. And I hope that, through reviewing footage like yours and reflecting on footage like yours, South Africans can not only look in the mirror of some of the hard stuff that we need to face, but that we can remind ourselves that, kindness is within our grasp, but it shouldn't only be within our grasp when the chips are down. We need to be applying that kindness all the time. We shouldn't just be waiting for Mandela Day or the next crisis to arrive with our kindness and all the wonderful gestures that we can make. We should be trying to do that all the time. So, thank you for reminding us of that and bringing that to life in your images. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say, just also go gently with you. You know, the work that we've been doing over the last 10 days is very real, the impact that trauma has on our body on a cell level. So you've got my cell phone number. And if you need to chat at any time, and I mean that most sincerely, I'm here to chat. I don't have all the answers, but I can lead you from experience and my learnings from working closely with Paulie, who's a psychologist. There is going to be residual stuff that's going to hang around. And if you need any support, I'm here for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I mean, I really appreciate it. And I think, having these conversations is just what it's about. You know, if one photograph can lead to a conversation, I mean, I'm just going to keep shooting. I'm just going to keep doing what I do to have more conversations. And I'm, grateful for your guys' time and, putting this together and just, I want to inspire more people. If there's anyone out there that has a platform, that has a social media, I think it's an important thing to put your hand up and just go, let's chat. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't have to be anything that costs you money or, it's just a simple conversation.
Thank you for the work that you do. Yeah. And lots of love to everybody. Keep safe and we'll connect really soon.
You've been listening to Kindness Can, the podcast. Find out more at kindnesscan.co.za.